It's metal for the masses. It's the only place playing it harder, faster, and louder than anybody else on live365.com. Sir, please introduce yourself and the band that you hail from.
Yeah, my name's Nolan. I'm from Whisperhead, which is what we call a new metalcore band based out in regional New South Wales, Australia.
Nice. And I've been actually playing a couple of your tracks here on my show. I got turned on to you guys by Burnt by Hatred, which is another Australian guy out there who
Mhm.
was gave me a couple different bands to check into. Yours was definitely one of them, and I love your guys' sound. I really do. Um, you guys definitely have that
Thanks, man. That means
combination of what you call like new and a bunch of other things, and you have several awesome tracks out. I've only heard three of them, unfortunately, but I believe you have five. Uh,
yeah, fine.
I've heard Verdict, I've heard
Hmm.
HFTC, and Black Lace, and all of which sound fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate that. Yeah, that they are our latest three. Verdict just came out like last week.
Yeah.
Uh, week. Yeah.
But so with this music, I mean, obviously Verdict is the most recent track, so I figured let's start with that one and kind of work our way back in your journey. So Verdict, it's obviously it it's it sound like it just starts off. It's like very courtroom esque. But what's the what's the deal with the song? Like, what are you guys trying to convey with that track overall?
Um, yeah, look, I don't like to talk too much about what the songs are about because I really like the listeners to, or the audience to, relate in whatever way is personal for them. But broadly speaking, the idea behind it was to talk about, um, or just about having this sense of injustice in the world. And I don't mean, although it certainly is injustice, I'm not talking about like broader social issues. I really mean more like personal issues when, people get away with stuff they shouldn't get away with, or when you're treated unfairly, the stuff that's not, and I don't want to be whinge and say, life's not fair, but basically that's kind of the idea. Um, this this need to bring justice to people that deserve it in our lives, or to at least, we can't actually do that, but to express this desire for um, things to be right, I suppose.
Gotcha. And listening to this track, because when I it was funny because you did reach out and let me know that you had this new track out. The very first night I played your guys' stuff, I played the HFTC track, and you had said that we also have new music out, which I was like, oh my God, how did I miss this? It just came out. Um, and listening to HFTC and then listening to Verdict, I mean, they are they're close together in when they were released, but I can hear, the differences between the songs, if that makes sense to you. Uh like there's definitely, improvements as you guys are going on from the stuff that I've been able to listen to.
Yeah,
What is the process of writing for you guys, and how has it changed over the years?
yeah. So, I mean, we haven't been together for that long. Our 2-year anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're still relatively fresh. Um, the A bunch of the original songs that we started with, that we played live for the first time that we played live, had just been written by myself in isolation, basically. In fact, literally kind of written during COVID. um, as the band has gone on, the other guys have started more and more collaborating. Um, so, funnily enough, Verdict was one of the original ones. So even though it's the most recently released, it actually outdates HFTC by quite a while.
Interesting.
Sorry, yeah, I struggle with the song is actually called "Hang from the Ceiling," but we got pinged and our Facebook social media deleted because of the connotation, so we had to change the name. But
Uh,
yes, I
I
know
could
it was
see how
hang.
that
So
might be a problem.
yeah, yeah. So I don't even HFTC. Yeah. Um, so yeah, but to get to your question in terms of perhaps if the production quality is better on Verdict, I'd say there's a few. We really struggled to get hang recorded. We record at home and then send it away to a producer in Melbourne. And for whatever reason, we just struggled to get it right, whereas Verdict felt like it was a much easier process. And that's probably potentially just got a lot to do with like every time you go and record, you get a bit more experience and you learn a few more lessons. And I think, I would like to think that um, if you follow the journey of our releases, you can tell, or yeah, I would like to think that you could tell that they're getting better each time. And I would say that's because we're just learning lessons each time.
Gotcha. So it's very interesting going back to, you guys have only been together. You got your 2-year anniversary coming up, which congratulations, guys. Like, that's, in terms of, the longevity of bands, you guys made it past the first year and you guys are still going strong. That's always positive vibes right there. Um,
Hmm.
how did you guys like kind of come together? Like how did this all start? I guess you mentioned, lockdown and that did it kind of all just stem from you in lockdown and just finding all of these guys and putting this team together?
Yes, that is mostly correct. I had written a small handful of songs during COVID that I never ever thought would be performed live. I had gone to the trouble of recording one of them, just some friends in town here, and then decided just to release it because it was done, may as well.
Right.
And then uh, from that song, we got offered a show in another regional city about 2.5 hours away from here, but there was no band. Like I recorded that first song by myself. Um, so then it was a matter of recruiting people that I knew and that I liked and got on with and were very good musicians, of course. I got them on board with the premise that it wasn't going to be a huge time commitment because we honestly thought it would be one show or maybe two, and that would be the end of it. Um, at the time, it was no one was really sure what was happening with COVID. We're any minute now expecting another lockdown. Like, shows have been basically killed for 2 years. Like, we just really didn't think anything would come of it. And I actually paid a couple of guys just came on as session musicians.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And then as we continued to get show offers, which started sort of rolling in nicely, eventually everyone jumped on board full time. So yeah, I mean it's been the same four of us from the beginning. Um, but Troy, the guitarist, and I were really the first two to commit to the band as members. And then Darcy and Dylan, the bass player and drummer, sort of came on a few months after that formally. So that was really exciting for us because they're both excellent musicians and really just lovely guys. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're very fortunate to have, I think, a good group of blokes to do this with.
And it was Troy, Dylan, and who else? I'm sorry.
Darcy, yeah, Darcy, the bass player, yeah.
Darcy. Okay. Yeah. Shout out to them and shout out to you guys, man. You guys definitely are a great sounding lineup. And I think it's very flattering that you guys got a show offer, before there was even a band to go play a live show. That really says a lot, man. It really does. Um, how has obviously you guys have been going for 2 years, so obviously it's been somewhat good, but like what's the overall reception of your band been to the people of Australia?
Um, I think with anything that we have great shows, and we have some shows that are maybe you feel the audience didn't quite connect with it as much. I think so. We just played, I think, our 35th show last night down in Lithgow, which is about 3 hours away from where we live.
Cool.
So we've been working pretty hard, but also, yeah, you play some where the crowd might be small but super engaged, and then you play, and then the next night you go and play one where there's three times as many people, but no, like they're not having it, not interested, or it's just the culture of the town that they're not gonna mosh and participate or whatever. We've played shows where they've been smaller crowds, but you sell quite a bit of merch, you get some new followers on all your platforms, blah blah blah, and then you play some big ones where you just get nothing. So the response has been varied, but I think one of the things that we have done is we've planned a lot of shows ourselves, and we've also accepted a lot of shows, just anything that's been thrown at us. And I
Hmm.
think one of the things that we have learned is that we are becoming better at picking what we should be doing instead of just doing everything, because um, I don't want to sound unappreciative for the offers that we have had, but if you end up on a bill where it's all grindcore bands, the people that go to those shows are not necessarily going to be into, you know,
Right.
windy
And I
new
would
metalcore.
I
So
would say, at least in the beginning when you guys are starting out, not like you guys as in you guys, but like any band starting out, it's good to just take whatever you can get, but you guys being on, your 35th show now, you've got some time under the belt. You guys are starting to develop a sense of like, all right, let's kind of be a little bit more choosy on where we are, because exactly as you said, you guys don't want to be, Whisperhead on a venue of pop stars or pop music, you know what I mean, or like house music or
hmm,
something like that. You guys are going to be way out of place. Or
yeah.
even in you don't want to be on a I guess like a sludge or stoner metal, kind of venue, because it's just like you guys are really like, are the crowd may take to you or they might not. Like, you guys definitely want to be in your own element and
Yeah.
on a list with like, similar sounding bands. That way you're having a great time and you're getting a more positive experience out of it. I totally get that 100%.
Hmm.
Um, do you said that you were just you guys just did a show 3 hours away yesterday, you said?
Last night, yeah.
How did that show go?
Yeah, it was really good, man. I didn't do a count myself, but they said there was about 150 people. So for um, I, I suppose a small. I mean, it's a Lithgow is about an hour and a half west of Sydney, so anyone in Sydney would consider that a country town, but it's a small city.
Right.
But 150 people at a metal show is not to be sneezed at a
Not.
place the size of Lithgow. So to us, that was a very good crowd. Um, yeah, yeah, pretty engaged. Most of the bands that were on the bill we had played with at one time or another before, but there were a couple that we hadn't seen. So it's great to always make new friends um, with bands that we haven't played with before. Um, and I think what was really lovely about last night was it was actually put on for a young man's 18th birthday. He's a young metalhead and wanted a metal show, so his uncle, who's in one of the metal bands, organised a show and with a lineup of like 6 or 7 bands. Um, and yeah, the young gentleman had seen us play somewhere and specifically asked us to come down, which was really humbling for us. So it
That's
was
awesome.
nice to get down there, but intimidating when you're playing with a whole bunch of other local bands. They have all their friends and family there, and we've got no one. But
Right.
you make friends quickly.
Right. Did I guess like they had all the friends and family there. I guess you guys really had to be did you guys have to be quite careful about you know dropping F bombs and stuff like that, I guess?
Um, we did. One of the more weird requests we've ever had was because of the nature of the venue. They were like, they really did not want any unreasonable. They just kind of said, look, just be as respectful as you can. Um, um, there's a lot of swearing in many of our songs, and not only that, but we do also tackle some fairly um, tricky subject matter. So we were really unsure how we were going to go, but in the end, we chose to just make sure that in the in between song banter, that was all as tame as it could be,
Right.
and then they just had to take the songs on the chin. On the chin.
I can just imagine it now. It's like, hello, we're Whisperhead. This is Hang from the Ceiling. Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, it was
Uh,
like that. Yeah, no,
that's
but it was
very
good fun.
funny.
Yeah, it was just a big party. Like, what more could you ask for?
Right. So, going a little bit back here, being that you are the man behind Whisperhead, and this is kind of, you know, at the end of the day, this is almost your baby. You know what I mean? Uh, where did this where did all of this start for you? Like your love of metal, obviously, like we see in your Instagram bio, which I would say for everybody who will be tuning into this to definitely go follow your guys' Instagram. Here, I'm pulling it up right now just so that I can give you a good shout out here. Uh, it is at Whisperhead Music, all one word. But for fans of Mudvayne, Slipknot, Sevendust, and Spiritbox, obviously Slipknot in there. I hear a lot of the Slipknot. But where did this metal journey start for you? Like, what was the band that you heard where you're like, this is it? I know what I want to do today and forever. You know, where
Mm.
take us back.
Yeah, so I suppose really in my middle teens in high school, I was listening to what everyone else was that was on. In Australia, we've got like video hits on Saturday morning and Rage on ABC, and they would play the heaviest music that they would play that was sort of commercially um, friendly. Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and some Korn stuff, and that was kind of the first real exposure that I had to heavy music at all. POD, um, Sevendust, who became my favorite band for years and years and years. Um, and then I discovered uh, Slipknot and Soulfly and Nine Inch Nails, which perhaps not metal, but certainly share a lot of personality traits with metal. Um, and when I finished high school, I was in a metal band, and I put that in little V's because I think at the time we thought we were probably pretty heavy, but in hindsight, it was probably just like radio rock at best. um, now that looking back, I'm like, it was it was the mid noughties, so I suppose it was the height of like emo or screamo, bands. It wasn't really that heavy. It was probably had more in common with Funeral for a Friend or something, I suppose, than
Oh,
Slipknot
dude,
really.
don't say that. I like Funeral for a Friend. Now I feel bad.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was probably but even then it was probably more. It was
Yeah.
anywhere between that and Paramore, probably. Like, to be honest. Yeah, but so after that band finished, I moved on and did a bunch of other things, and I didn't really do anything that was that heavy. I've been in a synthwave duo for many years. I did, as everyone has done, I've done, acoustic covers in pubs and cafes and weddings and
Nice.
blah blah blah. Um, and I really damaged my voice quite badly a few years ago from presumably not looking after it, and didn't couldn't really struggle to sing. So the idea of ever being a frontman, especially in a metal band, sort of was completely dashed. But I went to a show it would have been about 4 years ago or something, and it was a metal show, and I hadn't been to one really for years, to be honest. And that was probably what re-inspired me. I think I was watching and I just went, man, like this is where my heart lies. It's time. So, but yes, it had been a long time. You know, that I guess that um, incubation period was quite long for, and really probably took sitting at home during lockdown with nothing to do to finally go, all right, like I've got time on my hands now. And you know, the other guys that ended up coming on board, and they really have come on board. I mean, it's, you know, I guess I mean I did start the band, but the other guys all play quite major roles in what happens with Whisperhead now as well. And I
And
do want to make sure
I
that.
don't mean like this is solely your, you know, your project. I don't mean out of, I don't mean anything in disrespect to your other bandmates here,
No,
but
no, no. I know that. I feel it's important to say that, you know, very often, whether it's named like that or not, most bands usually do end up being mostly the one driver with a bunch of guys that are just there for the ride. But you know, I mean, Dylan is a graphic designer by trade. He spends so much time doing all of our promo, or a lot of our promo material. You know, Troy's uh, well, he's a project manager, but his background's in IT. So, you know, most of our behind the scenes, any rigs, things that he sets up, you know, like setting up our tracks are all done by him. Yeah, the guys share the load pretty evenly now, which is really lovely. But yeah, sorry, that was a sidestep.
no.
What were we supposed to be talking about?
So you were going on about how you went and saw this metal show before obviously before
Yes. Oh,
lockdown.
thank you. Yeah.
It reignited the flame, and that's where we were.
Yeah. So somewhat fortunately for me, most of the guys that ended up jumping on Whisperhead were free because a lot of their bands had been shut down during COVID. Some of which never ended up getting back together, which is, you know, that's a shame for them, but uh, good for us. So it
Right.
was, in a way, it was fortuitous timing because when I was able to reach out to them, all of them were just like, yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything. Um, Probably the exception to that would be Dylan, who was playing in another band, but yeah, so I was able to get good people that are, you know, probably would have been in high demand because of the lockdown. Everyone was kind of free and had time. So
Gotcha. So from there to now, you guys have been pretty successful. You know, it hasn't. It's definitely been a bumpy ride here and there, but you know, you guys are starting to, you know, gain a footing out there. What I asked I asked Burnt by Hatred this when I interviewed him, just
mhm.
because I know Australia is it's a very big continent, but you know, not a lot of it is habitable area. Uh, what is what's the scene like? You know, out there, and
Yeah, so
how is it thriving?
yeah, so I mean, I'm perhaps not the best placed to answer this, but from my perspective and my position, Australia is seeing a lot of its festivals shutting down, metal and otherwise. I don't. That's probably a post-COVID thing, but people seem to be shy in buying tickets, and therefore festivals are just not getting the pre-sales that they like, and then just shutting down, which of course kind of perpetrates perpetrates continues the pattern that now people don't want to buy tickets because their events are being shut down. So we're finding a lot of smaller metal festivals as well as bigger, just general festivals closing down, and venues dropping like flies as well. It feels like every other month a venue somewhere is either closing down or just they won't put on live music anymore, which is a massive shame. There are some venues which are hugely supportive still, which is excellent because we need them quite badly. And I would say um, that at the moment, like people would say, metal is not a very popular genre, and I suppose in the scheme of all of music genres, it's probably not. But because metal heads are a real, like it's a real subculture, um, I think that you would find that metal shows are quite well attended. So I mean, not every show that we go to is hugely well attended, but generally speaking, I think that the scene is, yeah, not in an unhealthy position at the moment.
Right.
Um, there's quite a handful of bands. There are still places that you can play. You do have to be prepared to travel. Like we played in Brisbane, which is in Queensland, about 3 weeks ago. That was a 12-hour drive for us to get there. And then the next day we did a 10-hour drive back to Newcastle to play that show that night. So you just have to be prepared um, to do the driving, especially if you're not from one of those capital cities. I mean, Dubbo, where we are from, is 5 hours from Sydney, be
Nice.
our closest metro area.
That
Mm.
is that definitely takes a lot of commitment. That I don't think I could drive 12 hours. I just me personally, I don't think I could do it. And that's not I don't think that I would that I'm necessarily saying I don't have the commitment to do it. It's just like I just don't think I could I just don't think that I could really do it. So it's just like good on you guys, man. You guys are out there, you're doing it. You're making through hell or high water, you're fucking out there, man. That's awesome. But that
Yeah,
does
yeah,
sound like a shame that you guys are seeing a hopefully a temporary decline. I know this weird post COVID world we're living in. Um, I see it a lot here. I'm from the States here in New Jersey. And we see a lot of that post COVID change that has really been affecting, everybody else. So that a big thing that I try to not fall into is like, us here in the USA, we kind of think that we're the center of it all, you know what I mean? But it's weird uh and surprising sometimes thinking about how like this COVID thing affected the entire planet, and it's affecting the scene globally, not just here locally or where you are locally. And
yep,
it's odd, the metal scene was already uh in need of help, I would say, before COVID. It's definitely in more need of help now. I think that really, since everything started going digital, it's almost been inevitable that you're going to see a big decline in people actually going to these live shows and big festivals and stuff like that, because most of the time they can just download it, or maybe they can just listen to a live album and
yeah,
say they got that experience there, and not go.
yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things to pick up on there. I think the first thing there, and I'm certainly not claiming to be an expert at it, but I think one of the things that's important there is I really don't think that live shows are dying, and I don't think they will. But I do think that there's perhaps more onus on the performers now to actually be doing a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people are there to watch you, there has to be a sense of that something they couldn't have just gotten from watching the same live show on their TV. Um, and I don't have all the answers as to how to do that. But I think that there really is more pressure than ever on bands to be making sure that their performance is actually a show,
Right.
and that they're doing what they can to create a sense of community with people that are in attendance at the shows, and so on. Because I do think that there is something irreplaceable about shows, especially metal shows.
And I
But
agree with you 100% on that. That's my favorite band is ever since I was young, ever since my dad showed me, this band from the very first moment, it's been Iron Maiden. And we're talking about performance here. Uh, that is a stage show that you will not get anywhere else, than being there and seeing it. Um, I do agree with you 100% there. I'm saying not every live performer should try to be Iron Maiden. I mean, like, let's be realistic here. But
yeah,
I've been to plenty of shows where nobody on stage moved the entire set. And it depends. I mean, like if you're just playing like straight up black metal, I mean, like, there's going to be a lot of intricacy going on, a lot of people just kind of standing, in a horse stance, banging their head the entire time. But for most other shows, I mean, like, yeah, at least move around, get the audience engaged, something, like you
Yeah,
said, they should be doing things to engage the crowd and make it so it's like you can't just go watch this anywhere else. Make your show unique, um, in some way, but be engaging, be an entertainer. I mean, like that.
yeah,
At the end of the day, I mean, like you guys aren't just musicians as a band, but you're part of being a band should be you are an entertainer to some degree.
yeah, absolutely. I don't remember who says it, but there's someone that does podcasts that and I apologize for getting their name, but they say always like it's not the music industry necessarily; it's the entertainment industry. I mean, you can create music at home on your computer and never play a live show if you want, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you get the joy
Right.
in creating the music and producing it and releasing it, then that's absolutely valid and okay. But if you're going to perform, it's one thing for us to sit back and be arty and be like, it's all about the music. But for your audience, it's not just about the music. If they're coming to see something with their eyes, it has to then be visual as well, or whatever. And I mean, I think if bands aren't into banter because that's their thing, then make sure that it's atmospheric and that the transitions between the songs are well planned out, or like transport people somehow, so that they're experiencing something that they won't just get from watching the same show on TV. And like I said, I don't have all the answers to how to do that. I think that's something each band has to find for themselves. But I think it's an important thing to consider um, when we have so much competition for people's attention these days.
Right. And yeah, like even if it's not like a big stage show, at least like, be good at least talking to the crowd, like you said. Um, what is it? It's a video that's really funny, and it's Corey Taylor, not Slipknot, but like just as like Corey Taylor on stage with his acoustic guitar. And uh it's just funny like listening to him like talk to his crowds, where it's like I think he goes on to say it's like this next song's a song you all know, and somebody screams out SpongeBob, and he's like, it's not SpongeBob, you assholes. But it's
Yeah,
like it's funny, you know what I mean? It's like it's engaging, it's just it gets everybody a laugh, it lightens everybody up a little bit, and
yeah,
then gets into the next thing. I mean, like, yeah, there should be a fluidity to your show. It shouldn't feel like an abrupt crash every time a song ends. One song should go
yeah,
right into another, and it should be fluid, it should be seamless. And whether you're
yeah,
doing a big stage performance or whether you're going to engage the crowd, make sure it all makes sense, make sure it all flows with each other. you know it, it'd be like
yeah.
it'd be like Dave Mustaine talking about cooking and then going into peace cells. It wouldn't make any sense.
No, no. I mean, certainly, I think if you've got a frontman who's inherently funny and charismatic, and that's one of the strengths of the personalities of the band, then I think there's actually nothing letting you have that stage banter. I mean, I think a good example for me is someone like Crowded House, where um, I know they're not metal, but seem to easily get distracted just talking to each other in the audience for lengthy times in between their shows. But
Right.
it's kind of becomes all part of the um, that's part of their who they are as a band. But what they're not doing like is fucking around. Like it's while it might be spontaneous banter, it's kind of they know what they're doing. They're not asking each other what song is next in the set, and someone's tuning while the drums clicked in the next song. And, like it's still a performance that's engaging to the people watching it, even though they're not actually playing the song at that moment. So I think it really depends on the type of band you are and want to be at. And I could be wrong about this, but I dare say that Corey Taylor would not make that joke if he was fronting Slipknot. Like that's not the right tone for
No, it's definitely
Slipknot.
not.
So, I think there's places to do everything, but it's about picking a place. Yeah.
Right. But it's because, Corey Taylor's in tune with his audience at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a very it goes back to know your audience. And if you're not good at knowing your audience, then, as a band, that's something that you want to work on.
Yeah. And those
Because
audience members know they're not at a Slipknot show as well. Like they know what they're going
right.
to
I mean,
get.
like I try to tell everybody, the next time anybody thinks about going to like a big stadium show, you know, yes, like, if my favorite band was coming to town, and some of my favorite bands are like they've already made it big time stadium shows. But like more than anything, I think now in the scene, a lot of people should just go out, whether or not they know what the band is or not, but go support, you know, local artists. Because not only are they going out to support a local show, they're also supporting these local venues. Because now more than ever, at the rate that small venues are being shut down, um, it is almost alarming, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the rate that it is taking to get people to just go out and go to a local show instead of spending $30 million on a Taylor Swift ticket, it's quite scary what people are willing to do versus what they're seemingly not willing to do. And I think now more than ever, like, bands really got to start getting a little bit more creative in how they navigate this space. It's not your grandfather's, music scene anymore. It is, yes, it's a digital world now, but even uh, the streaming services, Spotify being a big one that I harp against. I think more artists need to start revolting against streaming services like Spotify that, one, don't treat those artists right. I don't necessarily think that being paid less than a penny is good by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be an overhaul with that, but I also think there needs to be an overhaul in what Spotify and what these streaming platforms algorithms are, because the more people use these algorithms, the more these people seem to be getting bands that everybody already knows. Like, if you listen to this band, it's going to give you the Foo Fighters, or it's going to give you Metallica, or it's going to give you this. It's like, I would love a place, which is why I do what I do here on Metal for the Masses, is I want a place where I can go listen to bands that I may have never heard of if I was only listening to mainstream radio.
Mm.
And I want to hear, what the next generation or even my current generation of metal is sounding like, or hard rock is sounding like, because
Mm.
the mainstream, I call it the mainstream music scene, but the mainstream entertainment scene, uh, it does seem to deem metal and hard rock and these, I've had it be called scary music, um, unprofitable. And at the end of the day, it's if all we care about at the end of the day is profit, then we, one, are forgetting about the art, and two, we're hollowing out every little piece of the feeling of existence we get while, listening to music. That's at least
Yeah.
that's my perspective.
No, I think I agree. I think that I think it's good to be somewhat business minded in what you do as a band. But I think if what is commercially viable ever out prioritizes the authenticity as an artist, then you've almost shot yourself in the foot, because I think people aren't looking for stuff that's not authentic, especially perhaps in the metal world. People who listen to top 20 pop charts, that may not apply to. Um, but I think especially with metal, if you're chasing trends, or writing your songs to be playlisted or whatever, look, there's nothing inherently wrong with having that in mind when you write the song. But if that priority outdoes the art or the authenticity of it, if you're naturally writing, classic metal that has a lot in common with the early heavy metal of the 80s and 90s, if that's what comes naturally to you, then that's just what you've got to do.
Right.
In my opinion, because I think if that's what you write naturally, and then you try to force whatever the trend is of the day, I think it's going to come off inauthentic, and I feel like people can really pick that up.
And I agree with that as well. I think people are very good at picking up what is and what is not authentic and not authentic. And I
Mm.
do agree, like, if you have a certain thing that just comes naturally to you, like you're saying, like if you're writing music and your what comes naturally to you might be like 80s hair, you know,
Yeah,
80s hair metal, or maybe 90s grunge that comes more naturally to you, or maybe even postmodern or something like that, that then write that, do what comes naturally to you, because we're all not the same people. The most beautiful thing about the metal scene and the metal genre is there is a subgenre for everything. And
yeah,
it is probably the most diverse genre of music you will ever find, just because it has so many different categories, stoner, sludge, doom, hair, hardcore, post-hardcore, you know, horror metal, black metal, melodic black metal, thrash metal, speed metal, just so many different things. And
yep,
I don't know, it's just like, I guess what I'm really just trying to say is I want the scene to progress. I want I'm not saying that, metal deserves to be back at number one again, but what I feel, what I hope is that a lot of these bands that are out here, you guys included over at Whisperhead, is people start picking up on you guys, because you guys are out here, you guys are majorly talented. Uh, I feel like if the scene maybe just threw a little bit more support towards the way of artists and not just profit, I feel like things would start to change. But I feel like at that point we're asking for businesses to take a profit loss, and it I don't know. I don't know how you fix it, but I do know how to complain about it a lot, and that's just kind of
yeah,
that seems to be
yeah.
all it is these days.
Yeah, so yeah, just going back a bit, I think that the danger of if that's right. Everything has an audience, and if you naturally write hair metal, just go for it, because there will be an audience out there for that. But if you naturally write hair metal and decide to try and do whatever's considered to be popular at the moment, in Australia at the moment, like doom and sludge is quite big, and so is like grindcore. If it's going to come out authentic, well, you're not, if you're doing that to make a commercial choice, but it's inauthentic, you're not going to win anyway, because people aren't going to buy that in authenticity. I remember watching an interview with Chino Marino from Deftones, and it was a radio interview that he was doing, and they had people call in, and someone called in and said, what would be your one piece of advice for someone that's starting out to sort of get to where you are now? And I remember he turned around and just sort of said, don't try, like, create the art that you want to create, and create the music that you want to create. If you love performing, perform that music and just do it for the joy of it. And if you are good and if you are lucky and if you also work hard, maybe you will get picked up and it will become a full-time job. But the idea that there's a formula that you can follow. Plenty of bands that are very talented and work very hard just don't get lucky, or
Right.
you know, whatever. Some bands that maybe don't deserve to be as big as they are got lucky. um, so there really doesn't seem to be a formula from how to get to being an unknown underground band to being perhaps shall we say at least a full-time band where
Right.
that becomes your main thing in life. Like you can now afford to make that your sole um, focus. Because if there was a formula, I think we'd just all be doing it.
Well, right.
So
It's just kind of going back to something you said in the beginning that I picked up on. Um, there's no like socialist's guide to, the music scene. I'm not trying to say that everybody should be able to make it big and win the lottery of becoming the next big thing. But there is definitely a multitude of bands that adding to this problem, um, all sound the same, and it's not just in the metal scene; it's in all genres across. And these artists, well, these bands never seem to last long anyway. Maybe a couple albums, and that's it. You never hear from them again, because I guess they're trying to do this or figure out the formula or copy another band's success. And I think we as the metal community, we as the hard music scene, I think we need to start, I guess, kind of not really grooming ourselves, but grooming the next generation of metalheads and hard rockers and you know hard music enthusiasts that hey, like, like you said, look, it's not going to be a one size fits all for everybody. Not everybody is going to make it big, but if this is what you want to do, do it. Be yourself, kind of figure out what works for you and follow through with that, and see where it leads you. It might not lead you to, the golden piggy bank at the end of the rainbow, but take it as far as you can take it, because what it's
yeah,
going to do at the end of the day is it's going to make you happy,
yeah, that's right, and that's really. I don't want to simplify it too much, but I think that's really at the heart of it. I mean, if you're constantly looking at trying to be, the next band that headlines Download Festival, does that mean that you're going to be unhappy playing to the 20 people at some country pub? And if you're unhappy doing that, firstly, those people are probably going to pick up on that. But secondly, if you got into music because you wanted to write songs and perform them for people, then what's wrong with the 20 people? Like, I mean, we all would love to play. Of course, a show to 2,000 people would be more exciting. Like, I understand that, and I'm not to say that we aren't without ambition either. But I think you've really got to. I think it's important to keep in mind like why you are doing it in the first place and where you find the joy in it. Because the other thing, of course, is that you see many, many artists that get to that place where they are performing to very large crowds, and suddenly, the PR has taken over their lives, or I don't know whatever. Suddenly, they're finding that maybe it's not all cracked up to they love the 45 minutes that they're on stage for with people, and then hate the other 23 hours of it. And obviously, it's not everyone's experience, but all I'm saying is that I just think it's important to know why you're doing it, if that's because you like writing the songs or just because you like performing, or whatever it is that you love about it. And then just not ever taking for granted that you're actually getting to do that, whether that's in front of 5 people or 500 or 5,000.
Right. Because at the end of the day, we need to start differentiating between bands and artists. Artists, I feel at the end of the day, don't care who they're in front of as long as they're in front of us and their music is getting to people and affecting people. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
like you said in the beginning, like, you don't like talking about what the songs are about because your music affects people in so many different ways. And that's what art does. It's subjective. You know, you look at it or you listen to it, and everybody has their own reaction to it, good or bad. Um,
Mhm.
and a band, might be defined as they're playing in front of 20 people, but they really are really wish that they were playing whacking, and it shows to everybody else there, and people stop showing up. So
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Uh, this has been an amazing interview. I thank you for being here
Thanks, man.
on short
Really
notice.
appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
no.
totally got my times wrong. I thought you guys were 16 hours ahead, not 15. And it's that whole time zone difference thing. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here and doing this here with me. It means the world. What's next for you guys? Anything on the horizon that we can look forward to?
We have a handful more of regional shows over the next few weeks, which are all shaping up to be. They look like they're going to be lots of fun. So that's really exciting for us. We have a couple more songs. Excuse me. We have a couple more songs that are demo stage, about to go to the producer for feedback before we start tracking them. So um, I we will be taking a little bit of less intense time for the last half of the year because I've got a little baby on the way. But
Oh,
so we won't
congratulations.
be. Thank you. Yeah. So we won't probably be doing what we have done in the past, like back-to-back weekends with multiple shows on the weekend. But there's always something you can be doing to build, right? So I mean, we record from home. So if we are kind of stuck at home, we spend that time recording new music so we can pump out a bunch more songs. And I can or hope to do some shows. So we maybe get a little bit. We was talking earlier about maybe getting a little bit pickier about the lineups, and once again, not to be pretentious or because we think we're too good for anything, but just if we've got limited time, we just have to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. Um, so yeah, we'll be recording a little bit more, playing a few shows, and then the intention is that in 2025 we can come in, um, kick on strong, and do all the what's almost like a soft relaunch, I suppose. We'll get some new photos taken, have a look at a redesign of the logo, all that sort of stuff, and just keep it fresh.
Well, I'll be rooting for you guys, man, from now till then, because I love, like I said, love your guys' music. I can't wait to see what else you guys come out with. And here's to your success, man. Really. No matter how far you guys get, it's great to hear what you guys have been coming out with. Nolan of Whisperhead, thank you for joining me here on Metal for the Masses. It has been an honor. And
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
I really hope to do this again, man, when more stuff comes out, and after all of the baby on the way happens, hopefully we get to sit down, we get to talk again, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much, and thanks for the invite. Yeah.